So right now we are going to talk about multiplying radicals. The biggest thing to remember with multiplying radicals is that you can only multiply an outside number or a coefficient, that's an outside is a coefficient, by a coefficient, or a radicand, which is the inside, it's a fancy name for the inside, by a radicand. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to rewrite this problem, and I'm going to label, I'm going to use a different color for radicands and coefficients. So 2 is a coefficient, it's the guy out front, so I'm going to use a black, I'm going to use green for that. And 5 is a radicand, so I'm going to use orange for radicands, okay? And then anything that's not a radicand or a coefficient is going to remain in black. So 3 is a coefficient. The radicand in this case is 10. The tricky part comes with this last one, and that's 1. What is 1? Is 1 a radicand or a coefficient? I don't have a radical sign at all, so that means that 1 technically has to be considered a coefficient. So now I'm going to distribute because I have parentheses. But when I distribute, I'm going to make sure that I only multiply a green by a green or an orange by an orange. Okay, so outside or a coefficient, 2 times 3 is 6. Square root. And then 5 times 10 is 50. Plus 2 times 1 is 2. And then I don't have a radicand to multiply by, so it's just going to be a 5. So technically now we have multiplied. The problem is that we haven't made sure that this is as simplified as it can be. Because the objective here is obviously to simplify. So if I'm looking at this first guy, I know that there is a perfect square inside of 50, right? The perfect square inside of 50 is 25. So I'm going to rewrite this so that it's 25 times 2 plus 2, square root of 5. Okay, so I'm now going to take the square root of 25, which is 5. The problem is, what operation is in between that 6 and that radical? So there's not an operation sign there, which means it is multiplication. So I'm going to do multiplication, 5 square root 2 plus 2 square root 5. So now I'm going to do my last step, which is to multiply 6 times 5, which is 30, square root of 2, plus 2 square root 5. Can I add those together? No, because they're not like radicals. So I am completely finished. There we go. We've just multiplied 2 radicals together. Just remember that you can only multiply coefficients by a coefficient or radicand by a radicand. You cannot mix and match.